My sister had a miscarriage, and our parents called her dramatic, then canceled her baby shower, so I cut them off. But 2 years later, they came begging to meet my newborn son. So I did this throwaway for obvious reasons because some family members use Reddit. I, female, 30, cut contact with my parents after how they treated my sister when she had a miscarriage. My younger sister, Nicole, female, 27, and her husband, Jeff, have been trying to have a baby for almost 3 years. They've been through all the fertility appointments, tracking ovulation, different treatments, the whole thing. They were basically at the point of giving up when Nicole found out she was pregnant. I still remember when she called me crying and I dropped everything to go over to her place. She was shaking so much she could barely show me the positive test. For context, our parents, Elaine, female, 58, and Barry, male, 60, have always been obsessed with appearances. They live in this fancy neighborhood where everyone knows everyone's business, and they're super active in their country club. Growing up, it was always about how things looked rather than how we actually felt. My mom missed my high school graduation performance. I had the lead in the school play because she couldn't reschedule her hair appointment. I'm not still bitter about that or anything. Okay, maybe a little. When Nicole told them she was pregnant, they were ecstatic. Not because their daughter was happy or fulfilling a dream, but because they'd finally have a grandchild to show off to their friends. My mom immediately started planning this ridiculously over-the-top baby shower. She invited like 50-plus people, most of whom were her friends who barely even know Nicole. I should mention that my husband Tyler and I have been trying for a baby for about a year with no luck yet, but I was genuinely happy for Nicole. Seeing her so happy after all that struggle was amazing. Then everything went to hell. Nicole was 16 weeks along when she started having really bad cramps and bleeding. I was the one who took her to the hospital because Jeff was out of town for work. He got on the first flight back when she called him. I stayed with her the whole time while the doctors confirmed she was losing the baby. It was devastating. She was just broken. I've never seen someone cry like that. The whole time I kept thinking, where the hell are our parents? Turns out they were at some charity gala and had their phones off. They didn't even come to the hospital until the next morning. And when they finally showed up, instead of comforting their daughter who just lost her baby, they basically told her she was being too dramatic. I still can't believe what happened next. When they came to the hospital room the next morning, Nicole started crying again when she saw them. My mom sighed and told Nicole she needed to pull herself together. My dad kept checking his watch the entire time. When Nicole tried to explain what the doctors had said about losing the baby, my mom said these things happen and it's just nature's way of dealing with a problem. My dad was only concerned about canceling the baby shower. Nicole asked if maybe they could just postpone it instead, and my mom said it would be awkward to reschedule. My dad even suggested this was a sign Nicole wasn't ready for motherhood yet. I got mad and told them Nicole needed support, not their judgment. They just left saying they'd give Nicole time to calm down, like she was the problem. But it gets worse. They not only canceled the baby shower, but they told people, including some of Nicole's actual friends, that Nicole wasn't emotionally mature enough for motherhood. A family friend called Nicole to check on her and mentioned what my parents had said. Nicole was devastated all over again. I was furious. 3 days after the hospital, I went to their house without calling first because I knew they'd make some excuse. They acted surprised when I showed up. I asked why they were telling people Nicole wasn't mature enough for motherhood. My dad claimed they were just explaining the situation to their friends. My mom said they needed to save face after announcing the pregnancy to everyone. I told them Nicole just lost her baby and needed support, not to be bad-mouthed. My dad dismissed this by saying Nicole could try again later, like she just failed a driving test. Then my mom suggested that Nicole was probably too stressed and caused her own miscarriage. I was seeing red at this point. They said I was overreacting just like my sister. That's when I told them I was cutting contact until they apologized to Nicole. They laughed and said I'd get over it and be calling them within a week. It's been 3 weeks now. I haven't spoken to them since that day, and honestly, it's been more peaceful than I expected. I don't care what they think anymore, though I do still check their social media occasionally. I know, I'm working on that. My dad has sent a couple texts saying I'm tearing the family apart and that I need to be reasonable, but I'm pretty sure he's just trying to manipulate me into giving in. Nicole is doing okay, I guess. As okay as someone can be after going through that. She's actually started painting again. which she used to love doing before our parents convinced her it was impractical, and she should focus on her business degree instead. Her paintings are all really dark right now, but her therapist says that's normal and part of her processing everything. I don't regret cutting them off. My life has honestly been more peaceful without their toxic, judgmental attitudes. But sometimes I do feel guilty, especially with the holidays coming up soon. Am I really prepared to skip family Christmas for the first time ever? I don't know. Part of me misses the idea of having parents, but the reality of who they actually are is a whole different story. Nicole and Jeff are taking some time to heal before they decide if they want to try again. I'm just trying to be there for her however I can. Tyler has been really supportive through all this too. Edit. Wow. I didn't expect this to blow up overnight. Thanks for all the supportive comments. To answer some common questions, yes, my parents have always been this cold about emotional issues. When I broke my arm at 12, my mom's first concern was whether I'd still be able to wear the dress she bought for my cousin's wedding. No, they haven't reached out to Nicole directly to apologize. My dad sent her a generic thinking of you text with a gif of a teddy bear, which is so out of touch it would be funny if it wasn't so sad. For those asking if Nicole's doctor gave her a reason for the miscarriage, yes, they said it was likely a chromosomal abnormality, which is common and not caused by stress or anything Nicole did. I made sure she understood that because my mom's comment about her causing it was so harmful. Edit 2. Someone asked about my dad's texts. He sent about 5 to 6 messages, mostly stuff like, "This silent treatment is very immature, Melissa, and your mother is very upset about your behavior." Not a single word about what they did wrong, or any acknowledgement that they hurt Nicole. Classic blame shifting. Now for the first update. So, a lot has happened since my last post. Like, a lot. I honestly can't believe it's been 2 whole years since everything went down with my parents and Nicole's miscarriage. Life has completely changed, mainly because I'm now a mom to a 3-month-old baby boy named Oliver. Yeah, that happened. It's actually kind of crazy timing because when I cut contact with my parents after that whole nightmare, I was actually already pregnant, about 6 weeks, but had no idea. Looking back, it's like the universe was doing this weird thing. I don't know if that makes any sense. After like a year of trying, Tyler and I had basically stopped trying, you know? We were just kind of letting whatever happens happen. Then boom, pregnant. I found out literally 3 days after that final blow up at my parents' house. Anyway, Nicole is doing a lot better these days. She's been in therapy for about 1.5 years now, and it's really helping her process everything. She and Jeff still haven't been able to conceive again, but she's in a much better place emotionally. She's actually selling some of her paintings online now. I'm so freaking proud of her for that. So when I found out I was pregnant, I made the decision right away not to tell my parents, like at all. I didn't announce it on social media, and I specifically told everyone who knew, close friends, Tyler's family, Nicole obviously, not to mention it to my parents under any circumstances. Everything was going great. Oliver was born 3 months ago, and he's perfect and healthy and looks exactly like Tyler except he has my eyes. We've been enjoying being new parents, well, exhausted but happy, until last month when my cousin June posted a pic from a family cookout. She tagged me in a photo where I was holding Oliver, and within hours my phone went crazy with messages. My mother called 12 times in a row. My dad sent 8 text messages, each one getting progressively angrier, all basically saying, "Why didn't you tell us about our grandson? And call your mother immediately." I ignored all of it because I was honestly just too tired and overwhelmed to deal with their behavior. Oliver was colicky that week, and I was running on like 2 hours of sleep. But they didn't stop there. Oh no, that would be too reasonable for them. They started this whole campaign to try to get to Oliver. First, they sent these ridiculously expensive baby gifts to our house, like a $300 baby swing and designer clothes that were the wrong size anyway. I returned everything. Then they started showing up unannounced at our house. The first time it happened, I was literally nursing Oliver in the living room when I saw their car pull into the driveway. I immediately texted Tyler, who was at work, and he was like, "Don't answer, this is ridiculous." So I didn't, but they wouldn't leave. They knocked super loud, then started ringing the doorbell over and over. My mom actually called through the mail slot saying they just want to meet their grandson. I was trying so hard to keep Oliver from crying because I didn't want them to hear him. My dad was shouting that they'd keep coming back until you let us in. At this point, the neighbors were coming outside because of all the commotion. So embarrassing. My mom started this dramatic crying act that was clearly for the neighbors to hear. Then my dad started taking pictures of our house with his phone, which was just creepy. I considered calling the police, but didn't want to make an even bigger scene. They finally left after like 45 minutes, leaving some gift bag on the porch that I didn't even open. After the unannounced visits didn't work, they got other family members to start calling me. My aunt, 2 cousins, even my dad's brother, who I've only met like 3 times, all saying the same thing: I'm depriving Oliver of his grandparents, and family is too important to throw away, and blah blah blah. Then yesterday we got a certified letter, mentioning grandparents' rights and heavily implying they might take legal action to see Oliver. I had a complete breakdown after reading it, like ugly crying in the bathroom so Oliver wouldn't see me upset. I mean, I'm not surprised by their behavior, not that I expected anything different from them. But I'm losing so much sleep worrying about whether they could actually legally force visits with my baby. Tyler is trying to be supportive of whatever I decide, but I can tell he's worried about how stressed I am, especially since I'm still figuring out this whole mom thing. Nicole feels guilty about all this, which breaks my heart. She keeps saying if she hadn't lost the baby, none of this mess would have happened. I keep telling her it wasn't the miscarriage that caused this. It was our parents' horrible reaction to it. They showed who they really are, and I was just finally brave enough to walk away. After the certified letter, I finally answered one of my mom's calls because I figured ignoring them was just making things worse. It went about as well as you'd expect. As soon as I answered, my mom immediately asked about seeing Oliver. When I asked if they understood why I cut contact with them, my dad grabbed the phone and said they had moved past the unfortunate situation. I tried to explain I needed them to acknowledge their hurtful behavior toward Nicole. My mom claimed they weren't harsh with Nicole. When I reminded them about saying Nicole caused her own miscarriage, they accused me of exaggerating and said they were misunderstood. My dad got on the phone again and told me other family members think I'm being unreasonable, like I care. My mom cried about deserving to know her grandson. When I said I needed time to think about conditions for a possible meeting, they got upset that there shouldn't be conditions for family. I've been talking to my therapist about this. Thank God for therapy, and she's been helping me figure out healthy boundaries. I'm considering allowing one supervised meeting with very strict conditions. But honestly, I'm really torn. Part of me thinks Oliver deserves to know his grandparents, even if they're far from perfect. But another part of me is terrified they'll treat him the way they treated Nicole and me. What if they criticize him for normal baby things? What if they undermine my parenting? What if they try to turn him against me when he's older? But then, what if I'm overreacting? Am I just being petty and holding a grudge? Should I give them a chance to be better grandparents than they were parents? I don't know what to do. If I do allow a meeting, what kind of conditions should I set? Has anyone dealt with something similar? Edit. Thank you all so much for the supportive comments and advice. To answer some common questions, yes, I've looked into grandparents' rights in my state, and from what I understand, they don't have much of a case since they've never established a relationship with Oliver. Still consulting with a lawyer to be sure. No, I haven't shown the letter to Nicole. She's in a good place right now, and I don't want to drag her back into this mess. Someone asked what was in the gift bag they left. It was a silver engraved baby rattle, way too heavy for a baby to actually use, and a card that said, "To our precious grandson, who we love more than words can say," which is rich considering they've never even met him. For those asking about Tyler's parents, they're wonderful. They visit once a week, always call before coming over, and respect our parenting decisions. That's what normal grandparents do. Edit 2. A lot of people are suggesting I make a list of specific conditions for them to meet before seeing Oliver. I actually really like this idea. I'm thinking things like, they need to acknowledge and genuinely apologize for how they treated Nicole. They need to respect our parenting decisions, no unsupervised time with Oliver, etc. I'll talk to my therapist about this approach. Now for the second update. So it's been a couple of months since my last update about my parents threatening grandparents' rights to see Oliver. After a lot of thinking and like 5 emergency sessions with my therapist, seriously, she's a saint for fitting me in, I decided that maybe I would consider letting my parents meet Oliver, but only with some serious boundaries in place. Like, I wasn't just going to hand over my baby to people who treated my sister like garbage and then harassed me at my own house. I spent almost a whole week drafting this document, while Oliver was napping, so basically in 30-minute chunks, lol, that I called conditions for rebuilding trust and establishing a relationship with Oliver. I know it sounds super formal, but I wanted to be crystal clear about my expectations. My conditions were: 1. The meeting would happen in a neutral public location, not their house or mine. 2. They had to attend at least 2 family therapy sessions before even seeing Oliver. 3. They needed to publicly apologize to Nicole for how they treated her after her miscarriage. 4. They had to acknowledge in writing that their past behavior was wrong. 5. No unsupervised time with Oliver. 6. No posting any photos or info about Oliver on social media without my permission. 7. No extravagant gifts until trust is rebuilt. They always tried to buy our love as kids. I was honestly so nervous sending this email. I must have read it over like 20 times before hitting send. And their response, exactly what you'd expect from them. My dad called me within 10 minutes of sending it. He was furious, saying I was being controlling and that I was acting like some kind of dictator. My mom got on the phone crying, obviously, saying I was holding Oliver hostage and that I was punishing an innocent baby by keeping him from his grandparents. I literally had to hold the phone away from my ear because they were both yelling. I just said, "These are my conditions, take them or leave them," and I hung up. I was shaking so bad after that call that I accidentally knocked over an entire cup of coffee all over the kitchen floor. Anyway, after their initial freak out, I didn't hear anything from my parents for like a month. Radio silence. I was honestly relieved, but also weirdly checking my phone constantly to see if they'd contacted me. I don't know why. It's not like I actually wanted to hear from them. But I guess a part of me was waiting for them to just give in and meet my terms so we could move forward. Then, completely out of nowhere, my dad called on a Sunday afternoon. He sounded different, less angry. He said they'd thought about my proposal, his word, and they were willing to comply with my requests. Again, his words, so formal. My mom got on the phone and said they'd already scheduled a therapy appointment for the following week. I was honestly shocked. I didn't actually expect them to agree, but I guess they realized this was their only option if they wanted to meet Oliver. So the first therapy session, oh my freaking God, it was so awkward. The therapist I found specializes in family reunification and estrangement, and she seemed really good, but my parents were, well, themselves. My dad checked his email like 5 times during the session. The therapist actually called him out on it, which was kind of amazing. My mom cried basically the whole time about how unfair it was that she was being portrayed as a villain in all this. At one point, the therapist asked them to reflect on how their words might have hurt Nicole after her miscarriage. And my dad said, "We were just being realistic. Sometimes you need to hear the truth." I nearly walked out right then. I felt like the therapist wasn't taking my side enough. Like she kept trying to find common ground, and I was sitting there thinking, there is no common ground with people who tell their daughter she caused her own miscarriage. But my own therapist later explained that family therapists have to stay neutral to be effective. Still felt weird though. After that first session, I honestly didn't care if they went to the second one or not. Except, I totally did care. Because I spent the entire day of their second appointment checking my phone to see if the therapist would confirm they showed up. She did eventually email saying they completed the session, and apparently it went productively, whatever that means. The next step was the public apology to Nicole. I arranged this small family gathering at my house. Just me, Tyler, Nicole, Jeff, and my parents. Nicole was super nervous, and honestly, so was I. I was really anxious the whole morning. I kept thinking, what if they say something horrible again and make everything worse? When they arrived, everyone was really uncomfortable. My mom immediately started with this awkward compliment about Nicole's hair, which hasn't changed in like 5 years. My dad just stood there checking his watch like he had somewhere better to be. I had to literally remind them why we were all there. I said, "You agreed to apologize to Nicole as one of the conditions." My mom looked like she'd swallowed something sour, but she finally turned to Nicole and said she was sorry for how they reacted after the miscarriage. Nicole just sat there silently, clearly waiting for more than that generic non-apology. After the most uncomfortable silence ever, my dad finally stepped forward and admitted they were thinking about themselves and their social circle rather than Nicole's pain. Then something unexpected happened. My mom started crying, for real this time, not the manipulative tears she usually does, and said she actually had a miscarriage herself before I was born. None of us knew this. Nicole looked completely shocked. My dad got this weird look on his face and said they've never been good at dealing with emotional pain, so they just don't. Nicole finally spoke up and said she accepted their apology, but that it would take time to rebuild trust. The whole thing was awkward, but actually kind of healing. I don't know, it felt like maybe the first real conversation we've ever had as a family. After they signed my written acknowledgement, yes, I actually made them sign it, call me Petty IDC, we scheduled the meeting. I picked this restaurant with a little children's play area for the following weekend. The night before, I almost canceled like 5 times. I kept having these anxiety spirals about everything that could go wrong. What if they try to grab Oliver and run? Ridiculous, I know. What if they criticize my parenting? What if Oliver cries the whole time and they blame me? Tyler was amazing though, and kept reassuring me we could leave anytime if things went south. So, the day finally came. We got to the restaurant and my parents were already there. They're always early to everything. It's like their one good quality. When we walked in with Oliver in his stroller, my mom immediately started crying. Like, actually crying. Not her usual performance. My dad stood up awkwardly, and I could tell he was trying really hard not to show emotion, but his eyes were definitely watery. I deliberately took my time getting settled, adjusting Oliver's outfit, talking to the server about high chairs, looking at the menu, basically making them wait, which was probably petty but felt so satisfying after everything. When I finally turned Oliver's stroller to face them, they both just stared at him like they couldn't believe he was real. But before I let them hold him, I pulled out this photo album I'd put together and handed it to them. They looked confused but opened it, and inside were all these photos. Oliver's birth, well, after the birth, not the actual gross parts, lol. His first smile, first bath, the day we brought him home, his first time in the swing at the park. All these moments they missed because of their behavior. I told them, this is my gift to you. The memories you sacrificed because you couldn't treat your daughters with respect and kindness. My mom completely broke down sobbing when she realized what she was looking at. And my dad, I've literally never seen my dad cry before that moment. Ever. Not even at his own mother's funeral. But he was sitting there with tears running down his face, looking at these pictures of his grandson's first months of life that he missed. I told them they could be part of Oliver's future if they continued with therapy and respected our boundaries. And only then did I unbuckle Oliver from his stroller and let them hold him. The weird thing is, the meeting actually went way better than I expected after that initial emotional part. My dad was surprisingly good with Oliver, making these silly faces that actually got Oliver to laugh. My mom was more nervous, like she was afraid she'd break him or something, but they both respected all my rules, asked before picking him up, didn't try to feed him anything, didn't criticize when Oliver got fussy. It's been about 6 weeks since that first meeting, and things are slowly improving. My parents have continued with therapy. They've gone to 3 more sessions on their own, and we've had scheduled visits every 2 weeks. The visits are still a little awkward, but definitely getting better. Tyler's parents babysit Oliver twice a week and have this amazing natural relationship with him that sometimes makes me sad about what my parents missed. But that was their choice. And these are the consequences. My dad asks all these questions about Oliver's development that I initially thought were him criticizing, but my therapist pointed out he might actually just be genuinely interested in his grandson, which is taking some getting used to. Nicole and my parents have started limited contact too. She's setting her own boundaries, which I'm super proud of her for doing. And speaking of Nicole, she's pregnant again. She's 14 weeks along now and everything looks healthy so far. The really shocking part is that my parents are being way more appropriate this time. Like, my mom actually asked Nicole how she was feeling instead of immediately planning some elaborate announcement party. Do I regret cutting contact after how they treated Nicole? Absolutely not. Do I regret setting strict conditions for them to meet Oliver? Not for a second. I think forcing them to actually confront their harmful behaviors was the only way anything would ever change. Things will never be perfect with my parents. There's too much history and hurt there. But maybe, just maybe, Oliver will get to have grandparents who are better than the parents they were to us. And Nicole's baby will have grandparents who know how to actually support her through both good and bad times. Edit. To everyone asking about the document I made them sign, yes, I literally wrote out a statement that said, "We acknowledge that our behavior toward Nicole after her miscarriage was harmful and wrong. We recognize that telling her she caused her own miscarriage was factually incorrect and emotionally damaging. We understand that our priority should have been supporting our daughter through her loss, rather than concerning ourselves with social appearances. And yes, they both signed and dated it. I have it in my files. Edit 2. A lot of you are asking if I'm worried they'll revert to their old behaviors once they get what they want. Honestly, yes. I'm worried about that constantly. That's why I'm maintaining all these boundaries and why all visits are still supervised. Trust has to be earned back, and they've only just started that process. Edit 3. For those wondering about the grandparents' rights threat, they haven't mentioned it again since agreeing to my conditions. My lawyer said that their participation in therapy and the fact that they're now seeing Oliver with my permission actually works in my favor if they ever tried to pursue that route in the future. Basically, they're acknowledging my authority as the parent to set the terms of their relationship with Oliver.